Hi, I'm Joel Bloom, president of New Jersey Institute of Technology. At NJIT, we believe that not only our students, but all citizens need to be informed about the issues facing higher education. As New Jersey's Science and Technology University, NJIT is proud to support the important programming produced by the CAUCUS Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of State of Affairs with Steve Adubato has been provided by
Atlantic Health System, building healthier communities.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, the New Jersey Education Association,
Valley Bank,
the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, NJ Best, New Jersey's 529 College Savings Plan, and by Choose New Jersey. Our mission is attracting companies to the Garden State. Promotional support provided by New Jersey Globe. And by Meadowlands Chamber, building connections, driving business growth.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. Welcome to State of Affairs. We are coming to you from the Agnes Varus NJTV studio. We are pleased to welcome Michael McQueeny. He is an attorney. He's the chair of the Genova Burns Law Firm's Cannabis Practice. Good to see you, Michael.
Good to see you, Steve.
Where are we with the law in New Jersey, or the lack of a law in New Jersey, that legalizes recreational use of marijuana?
The history of adult use legalization in New Jersey is a story of hurry up and wait, which is to say we're still waiting to see it happen. We've had multiple attempts since Governor Murphy came into office, and we're still just waiting for it to be pushed along in the legislature.
What's blocked it?
Listen, there's a lot of different takes on that. What the take that came out in the last legalization effort was that the governor just didn't play enough transactional politics, that he wasn't willing to make deals with people, the deals that people were looking for to get it across the finish line.
But there are some who have genuine. We had Senator Ron Rice check out that interview on State of Affairs. Go on our website. Senator Rice, who represents his community in the city of New York, was like, look, bad idea. It's unfair to African Americans. It would hurt African Americans disproportionately in terms of use and abuse. You say?
Well, so listen, I think we're never going to sway Senator Ron Rice on this issue, but there's a couple important things to keep in mind, right? That we have one of the most progressive bills nationwide. There's set-asides for minority-owned businesses.
Explain what that means, Michael.
So basically, under this bill's structure, 30% of all license types across the board are reserved for minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses. And again, this is not just to speak about remedying the injustices of what happened during Prohibition, but actually acting on it and providing incentives that say that licenses will not go out the door unless specifically they go to minority-owned businesses.
You know, let's break this down a little bit. 11 states in the country have legalized recreational use of marijuana. 33 states have medical use of marijuana that is legal. New Jersey, a couple months back, expanded the medical, because right now in New Jersey it's legal for medical use of marijuana. Correct. With a doctor's note, if you will, documentation, script. How has it been expanded?
So listen, the history of the medical program here is interesting to say the least. Governor Corzine signs into law his last day in office. Governor Christie admittedly was not for it. So we had a program over the course of 6 years that really languished, to the point where when Governor Murphy came into office, there was only 15,000 patients and 6 active licenses. Since Governor Murphy has come into office, that number has jumped from 15 to 55,000. And a large part of that is the medical expansion bill that just went into effect that expanded not only the qualifying conditions, who are the patients that can actually get it, but the number and scope of licenses. So we had 6 during the Christie years. We had another 6 that were awarded last summer. And then we had an application round that just closed for 24 additional licenses. And to me, that's the biggest part of marijuana legalization. Regular people understanding that cannabis businesses are not the boogeyman, that cannabis businesses are have more in common with an Apple store than they do a bong shop. And especially the types of consumers of cannabis that we're seeing in this program, in the 55,000 patients we have to this point, are certainly not the drug addicts that some of the naysayers might see them to be.
Michael, we've also had folks for the Partnership for Drug-Free. Help me, Jackie, hire our executive producer, Angela Valenti, and that group. Get me the name of the organization. Partnership, I believe, for Drug-Free New Jersey. They've argued, look, it is a gateway drug, and they're not the only ones. What do you say to those who argue marijuana use, for many, for some, gateway drug to other more dangerous drugs?
My response to that is, I think it's a gateway drug in the unregulated marketplace, right? When someone goes to their, let's remember, the illicit marketplace should more rightly be called the traditional marketplace, right? Because people have been getting cannabis in New Jersey throughout the history of prohibition.
By the way, why do we call it cannabis versus marijuana?
Marijuana has more of a racist background to it. When the Prohibition era came about, and you know, people in the federal government were trying to scare people away from cannabis. There were undertones talking about how people in the African American community were using it and trying to scare away, you know, white people in that regard. There was also, you know, similar to the hysteria we have today, that there were Mexican Americans who were also part of this underlying problem, which is where this term marijuana comes from, which is why you see in a lot of states the term as it's being remedied, even under the law, is cannabis, right? Illegal marijuana is marijuana. Cannabis is the legal counterpart.
And so the gateway argument, you say?
So the gateway argument is, listen, if I'm a user of cannabis and I go to my regulated storefront, right, the only thing I can buy there is cannabis. If I'm in the traditional marketplace, the illicit marketplace, who I'm buying from is also the person who's willing, more than willing, to sell me cocaine, you know, methamphetamine, all these other really dangerous drugs, right? So the gateway drug theory, you know, really only applies if I have equal access to those more illicit drugs, which I only really have if I'm going to that illicit marketplace.
Real quick, before I get into the vaping issue, which I know you're aware of too, your firm, which in fact is a supporter of state of affairs, I want to make this clear. The economics, the taxes connected to cannabis, the sale of marijuana slash cannabis, what exactly is it and why is it so relevant? Because when we had Governor Murphy when he was running, he said, look, there are two issues. One, there's an economic issue. He believes there's revenue to be made. He's not the only one, you say?
Yep. Yeah, listen, on the taxation piece of it, you know, it should be something that we derive revenue from, right? A lot of the negotiation in Trenton over the last year was, what do we set it at? If it's too high, and the prices correspondingly for cannabis in the regulated marketplace are too high, I'm not going to come back out of that illicit marketplace. If it's too low, are we going to be able to support the program? I think the most inventive thing they did in the most recent iteration of the adult use bill was to have a 2% dedicated set aside to the towns that host dispensaries in it, right? Dispensaries being the most visible business in the cannabis industry. If those towns are getting 2% from that and opening their doors, towns that are against it are going to see their neighbors getting richer, and again, are going to see that the cannabis industry isn't the boogeyman that they thought.
Michael,
it
real
was.
quick, before I let you out of here, 20 seconds on vaping. Where are we? Senator Sweeney's coming in here in just a few minutes to say we should ban vaping in the state, you say?
We need more research, right? So the biggest culprit we see right now is vitamin E acetate. Again, this goes, which is a thinning agent that goes into a lot of these vaping products. Again, this goes to the strength of a regulated marketplace. A lot of the deaths and injuries we see coming out right now are coming from black market vaping products, right? A regulator, Jeff Brown, who's our chief regulator here in New Jersey, has the ability to knock on the doors of the regulated marketplace and say, what are you putting in your vape products? Has the ability to say, if you're putting vitamin E acetate in there, get it out.
The key is regulation.
Correct.
Michael McQueeny, I want to thank you for joining us and breaking all this down. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
Stay with us. This is State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato, and we will be right back.
To see more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at stateofaffairsnj.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
State of Affairs is pleased to welcome Dr. Lamont Repollet, Commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Education. Good to see you, Commissioner.
Good morning, Steve. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Why don't we tell people right before we get on the air, we talked about this Education Week ranking of state public schools?
Yes.
At least we have some good news in New Jersey, which says?
We started the year off with great news. Ed Week, they have this Ed Research Center, and they ranked us #1 in the country based off of 19 different factors, and one of those factors was school funding. So we're very happy the fact that school funding put us over the top, but it also goes with the quality of our teachers, whether the certified teachers, you're looking at the work that we're doing with some of our at-risk students, and also some work we're doing with post-secondary success via vocation. So we're excited about that. We're ranked #1. But we've always been #1 in New Jersey as an educator. I've always felt that we have one of the top public school systems, and for years we were ranked high, but this time we have a publication that's credible, that says that we're #1. So we should be very excited. Our educators that are working hard every day should be excited about this, but more importantly, our students. They just really recognize the work that we're doing. But we have some work to do
We
as
sure
far as
do.
our
And
achievement
by the way,
gap.
isn't it great for New Jersey not to only be #1 when it comes to our property taxes? I'm sorry, I just had to get that. How about this? Commissioner, we're talking to Commissioner Lamont Repollet. This is Steve Adubato. We're coming to you from the NJTV studios in Newark. This is State of Affairs. You've talked about this concept of, quote, education equity, and you said this is a moral imperative. What does that mean? What is it? What does it mean?
Moral imperative is pretty much a moral obligation. As an educator, it is our right to ensure that when we're in that classroom.
But what's education equity is the question.
Education equity is really fairness. It's really fairness, opportunity, and access for our students. It's not equality, it's equity. Some students need more intervention, need more supports, and it's our job to make sure that we give them supports. But more importantly, we look at equity as a social justice as well to remove barriers. And I think that's our take, especially if you look at Stronger and Fairer New Jersey. The concept is stronger and fairer. We just talked about how our strength, but our strength is also not just academics, but the diversity in our staff and in our workforce. And our fairness is making sure that every student in the classroom have an opportunity to know that they can have a brighter future.
What are some of these, and by the way, by way of background, tell folks before you became the Commissioner of Education, you've had several positions in the world of education that lead you to your philosophy of education. Go ahead.
Yes, I started off as a teacher in East Orange Public Schools. My first administrative job was an assistant principal at Irvington High School, and I was fortunate enough to go back to Carteret, where I graduated, and become the principal there, and then very fortunate enough to lead the Asbury Park School District, and now the Commissioner of Education.
So let's try this. When we talk about education equity, no one's going to argue philosophically with what you just described, or most folks shouldn't be. But when it comes to the question of what stands in the way of education equity, meaning what are some of the specific challenges from your educational expertise and experience that a lot of these students, disproportionately in urban areas, but not exclusively in urban areas, face?
So you look at that, we talk about the achievement gap. And yes, it's there and it's been there for years. It's almost historical in regards to the gap, but it's our job to
Gap meaning those in, let's say, the Milburn School District.
Yes.
We happen to be a few miles away from
Yes.
Milburn. There's some real money in that town, and we're here in Newark.
Yes.
Go ahead.
But the gap is not just in Newark and the urban schools, it's across the state. You know, if you look at our data, we're looking at 99% of our Asian kids are graduating high school, where you have 84 African American, 94% are white versus 87. So there is a gap as far as graduation. And that gap is consistent not just in the graduation rate, but also consistent in academic as well. So we talk about the things that are going on right now, mental health. You're talking about all poverty. So there's a lot of different things that are attached to these kids that we need to make sure we're addressing. And that's equity piece, right? Making sure that when that kid is sitting there in the classroom, they're not just ready to receive the information, but they have the mental state to be able to do that. And our job through social and emotional learning to make sure that our kids are ready for that instruction.
Sorry for interrupting. You're talking to Commissioner Repollet, who heads the Department of Education in the state of New Jersey, the State of Affairs, Steve Adubato. My question is this. We've talked to some of our healthcare friends in the healthcare community who talk about, quote unquote, social determinants of health, right?
Yes.
What does that have to do with education? Meaning, whether a child is in a crime-ridden community, whether that child has parental support, whether that child lives in a situation where drugs, alcohol, abuse, a bunch of issues. What does that have to do with education directly? Because people say, hey, kids can learn anywhere, you say.
It has a lot to do. It's your state of mind. Are you in a right frame of mind when you're ready to receive that information? It's challenging.
By the way, not to mention who's hungry going to school.
Yes,
but I'm sorry.
that's clearly part of that as well. But it's challenging when an educator not only has to educate a child, but also know that child may be missing and lacking something, whether it's food, whether it's poverty, whether it's things that they're dealing with.
How about feeling secure?
Feeling secure. Safe, exactly. All those things kind of play. And over the years, it seems to be more pervasive in our students that they're coming in with a lot more baggage. So it's up for us to make sure that we only address the academic piece, but we also address the social and emotional piece. And that's the conversation we're having right now in the state, because we realize that we have to also do the social and emotional piece just equally as we're doing the academics, because that's the comprehensive approach to our student.
Commissioner, let's, sorry for interrupting, let's shift gears. The PARC test. Lots of talk about it. Is it correct that a decision has been made that the standardized testing in public schools, is it only in high schools?
No, standardized testing throughout grades 3 to 8 and once in high school. That's a federal requirement.
Well, hold on. No, the PARC test is only going to be going on for 2 more years?
Yes, we transitioned to the PARC. We also have a new assessment, New Jersey Learning Assessment, New Jersey State Learning Assessment right now in English and math, as well as science. So we transitioned from it. We renamed the assessment. We shortened the assessment. But that information all came from our outreach. And we listened to our educators, our students. During our outreach, we corresponded and met with over 3,000 students and parents and educators and stakeholders. Pretty much everyone in the educational ecosystem, those that are anti and those that are pro-PARC. We got them in a room together and we listened to them and we made some changes. Governor Murphy talked about from day one transitioning from PARC. I think it's important that when I talked about the transition must be methodical, right? Educators want to know that we have a plan of action. We just don't want to spring on something like, and I'm very pleased and happy the fact that our most recent spring assessments of our new testing, same requirements and regulations, but new format of testing went smooth.
Let me try this one. You know, pre-K, universal pre-K, moving toward that, more funding for pre-K.
Yes.
Ever before. But 0 to 5, infants, toddlers, we have our initiative called Right from the Start NJ. Put Right from the Start NJ, 0 to 3, together with the pre-K initiative, right? More money in pre-K. Some additional dollars going to quality childcare for those who are struggling.
Yes.
I believe $54 million, Jackie, right? Going through the Department of Human Services. We just had Commissioner Carol Johnson talking about that. Why is all that, the pre-K piece, the quality childcare piece for those who are struggling, why is that all relevant to public school performance of little boys and girls, kids going into kindergarten? I know it's a long-winded question. I'm trying to connect
So
the dots.
research states that a child's brain at that age, from 0 to 3, I believe, they can absorb a lot of information. So we want to make sure when the kids get to kindergarten, that means that they're ready to have phonemic awareness, alphabet awareness, all those things academically, we want them ready. And if they're not getting those supports as we talked about earlier, then they're behind a deficit. So we want to make sure that we ramp up. So in the Department of Education, we create an office from 0 to 3. We want to make sure in that office 0 to 3, we coordinate with Health and Human Services, with Commissioner Johnson's team, with the governor's office, to make sure that we're looking at our resources and making sure that we're pulling them up and kind of targeting where we need those resources to go. And the 0 to 3 for us is very important. It's also part of the First Lady's initiative as far as infant mortality. So I think we're all working together. I know Senator Ruiz does a lot.
Senator Ruiz, who chairs the Senate Education Committee, born and raised right here in Newark, and a relatively new mom.
Yeah. So if you look at us coming together as a state, you have the Department of Education, you have the legislators, you have the governor's office. We all see that there's importance as far as us from 0 to 3 to get those kids student ready, as we talked about before, making sure when they're in that classroom, they're ready to receive that information.
Commissioner, finally, you say 0 to 3. I say 0 to 10. 0 to 10, you love your job?
Yes, I love my job.
What's
10.
the number?
10.
Come on.
10, to get a chance to really reimagine education in state of New Jersey. There's no other better job out there.
You've been listening to Dr. Lamont Repollet, who is the commissioner of the Department of Education in the great state, the Garden State, New Jersey. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
You honor us by your presence.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thanks for
Stay
having
right
me.
there. This is State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato, and we'll be right back.
To see more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at stateofaffairsnj.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We're pleased to welcome Mr. Aaron Price, President and CEO of New Jersey Tech Council and the founder of Propelify. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
As we do this program, it's only been a couple of months since you've been head of this organization.
Yeah, 6 weeks or so.
What do these folks do?
So the New Jersey Tech Council is the largest representation of innovators in the state of New Jersey, both small and large. and has recently acquired my startup, Propellify, which represents one of the largest communities of entrepreneurs in the country. We're best known for this 8,000-person event that we have called the Propellify Innovation Festival.
Is that the event in Hoboken?
That's the event on Pier A in Hoboken, outside. 2 talks of stages, drones, VCs, VR, music, food, drinks, people not dressed in ties. It's a good
See,
time.
I knew I was going to take a hit. So if I were going to do a tech startup, this is not the appropriate dress.
Most likely you would be way overdressed. Yeah.
Okay, let's be serious for a second.
Sure.
Here's what's fascinating to me. This is part of an ongoing conversation we're doing a series of programs called The Future of Innovation.
Yeah.
New Jersey and innovation. We live in Montclair next to West Orange. I see the Edison, everything going on there, the factory, where the work was going on there, the museum. Where are we today when it comes to innovation in terms of how much innovation is going on, A, and B, what needs to take place to create even more innovation?
I think we're at a really exciting time for New Jersey. I've run this large event now. We're going on our 4th year.
Right.
And the first year this happened, people thought I was crazy. Who's ever going to come to Hoboken for this thing? I hoped we'd get 3,000 attendees. We had 8, and we've been growing each year. And so I see that the state's really matured in how we can help startups and innovators grow. I think the future is very bright, and we're at a time now where there's a lot of opportunity for how we define the next generation of the economy. So having the governor on our side, so to speak, vocally supportive.
What does that mean? What has the governor done, Governor Murphy, in terms of promoting innovation?
I mean, it shouldn't go unnoticed that just showing up and speaking about it is actually a significant step. Other governors have not always been so supportive and paid attention. So that's sort of an easy win, but it's really important that it makes us part of the conversation. The other is he's put the EDA to work with some programs.
Economic Development Authority.
That's right.
Again, one of our colleagues and partners in this Future of Innovation series. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's put the New Jersey Economic Development Authority to work to be very thoughtful in how can we accelerate the process. So there's a variety of things they've done to help companies get funding for workspace, funding to grow, funding for employees. He just recently increased the angel tax credit so that...
What does that mean, angel tax credit?
So
there's an angel investor, he or she... By the way, does that mean that person's not recognized?
That person is not recognized as what?
Well, angel investor.
An angel investor is an individual who invests their personal dollars into something, into in this case, a startup.
So what's the tax?
The tax credit is a certain percentage of that investment comes off as a deferment against their tax bill. And so it's a good incentive to increase or to incentivize individual investors to put their money to work in the state. Because we do tend to lose a lot of investment capital across the river, down in Philly. As I was saying, I think there's a real opportunity for us to define what the future is. Investment capital is highly needed. There's not enough capital in the state put to work. And so this is one way to help drive that.
So let me ask you this. That's attracting. But Aaron, in terms of retaining really talented, creative entrepreneurs, innovators, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to keep some of them.
It is.
Because?
For a lot of reasons. I mean, one, sometimes the profile of entrepreneurs, certainly in the tech world, tends to be a bit younger, and they're more drawn to New York. And so my argument is, let's lean in on the things that New Jersey can be best at and create an environment and create programs that those businesses will thrive and have a leg up if they're involved with Propellify or now the New Jersey Tech Council.
Geography matters as well, it seems to me, because we're, again, a few miles, maybe a mile or so away from the folks at New Jersey Institute of Technology. We actually shot a special series over there on the Voice Summit. Check out our website for those Voice Summit programs. My point is this. Innovation and urban communities, to quote Tom Kane, perfect together, or it has nothing to do with geography?
I think geography matters a little bit less, but the talent pool often exists in the urban environment. But I think what's interesting about modern tech companies is that the geography is really, like, the ability to launch something quickly and for relatively small investment kind of neutralizes the geographic element. You don't have to necessarily be where your customers are. You don't even necessarily have to be where your investors are. It certainly helps, but I think that it matters a little bit less from a convenience point of view, unless you create things like what I'm talking about, which is how do we make sure you get a strategic advantage by working with us? Like, we host our event on the pier in Hoboken because it turns out we have a better view of New York than they do of us, right? So we're looking at this
thing. Or they do it of themselves.
That they do of themselves, right? We have a better view from Hoboken than they do. And so we're leveraging a strength of New Jersey there. And so we also need to build up the investment network in New Jersey. We need to make sure that these companies are getting a lot more press, because in other regions they're covered quite a bit more. We need to make sure that the talent understands the opportunities that are here.
I'm sorry for cutting you off there,
Yeah.
because while everyone's innovating, we still have a limited time in public broadcasting. By the way, just want to clarify, I am dressed appropriately for PBS broadcasting.
I'm probably not.
You're fine. See, we're more accommodating. All good. Listen, Aaron, I wish you all the best at the Tech Council.
Thanks very much. I
And
appreciate
appreciate
it.
you joining us and being part of the Innovation Series.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Adubato, dressed appropriately here at NJTV. Let's continue the conversation. Follow me on Twitter at Steve Adubato. I'll make sure we'll see you next week right here on State of Affairs. Thank you.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of State of Affairs with Steve Adubato has been provided by Atlantic Health System, NJIT, the New Jersey Education Association, Valley Bank, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, NJ Best, and by Choose New Jersey. Promotional support provided by New Jersey Globe and by Meadowlands Chamber.
I think at NJIT there are a lot of smart students.
I came to NJIT for mechanical engineering because within state, it's one of probably the top 3 schools for engineering.
It sort of creates a friendly competition where you can learn from them.
It's a great academic school.
I feel I'm being challenged, but at the same time, I love the classes I'm taking.
The atmosphere of being here is like being at an upstart company. It's that same kind of drive, that same kind of passion.